What are your tips on staying motivated in these darker months of training?
I think seasonal affective disorder is real. I know people who struggle with it. The time changes. I hate falling back when we lose an hour, just because we lose an hour. It has nothing to do with daylight for me. I've never really been affected much by the daylight. Growing up a swimmer in Michigan, I was always inside. We trained in the morning, we trained in the evening, we went to school. So I grew up, I feel like, not seeing much daylight. And then I moved to Colorado in 95 because my friend said there's 300 days of sun. And I'm like, oh my God, sunshine, because I felt like I lived, right outside Detroit in Grosse Pointe under the mostly cloudy 300 days a year was mostly cloudy. So it was a joy to me to be able to move to a place that it was mostly sunny year round. So I do understand the benefits of having all that light and, the vitamin D production and all. And that's probably mainly what it's about, is when you're out in that sunlight, you are producing vitamin D, and vitamin D is going to affect your mood. So that's something to consider. But as far as like training goes, I'm going to train, no matter what the weather's like, indoors or outdoors, because I have a strong why. I mean, there's a reason I do what I do from a training perspective. And I don't have any issues with whether it's 4 a.m., 4 p.m., 9 p.m. Like if I have a training session planned and my why is strong enough, I'm going to get it done at whatever time of day I can get it done, indoors or outdoors. That's just my personality, and that's just kind of the way I've been my whole life. So I have no motivation issues during the darker months like other people do.
What about tips, some practical things someone can do? And first thing that comes to mind is turn on all the lights. If you have a pain cave, if you have an endurance cave, turn all the lights on and maybe play the music a little bit louder. That way you can simulate some brightness and get you started on the day versus having to go out and do it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So you're asking me for tips.
Yeah.
I just don't know many of them because I've never had to deal with a motivation issue during the darker months. I mean, I think, if you can change your schedule in any way, shape, or form, that you can get out of work an hour earlier at, 3 or 4 o'clock so you can enjoy that last hour of sunshine. Or maybe you can take an hour lunch break, or not even an hour, just an example. Maybe you can take a lunch break training session. Knowing Christina, she's a nurse, and so they don't, depending on your job, you don't have that luxury of being able to take time out of your day, out of your work day, because you have a certain 12-hour shift that you have to deal with. So, maybe it's meeting up with a buddy to get your workout in, whether you meet up with a buddy outside or inside. It's that accountability. So ultimately, I think the accountability helps. And when you're not training specifically for an event, that makes it a little bit harder.
Sure.
So a lot of times during the darker months, the winter months, athletes are in an off-season plan, more of a maintenance plan, strength training plan, where they're not necessarily getting ready for their main event of the season. Yeah. So that's part of the motivation issue. And there's nothing wrong with, when you're in that out of season, skipping a training session or two and not feeling, it's the off season for out of season, same thing, kind of for a reason to allow your body to rest and recover more.
I'm thinking about for people who are trying to do or planning to do Arizona, for example, the full distance, which is usually in November, and it will be in November next year, 13 months from now. I know because I'm doing it, that the weather takes a turn and it gets darker, and all your friends have packed up their bikes and their stuff, and they're not going to be working out as often. So you don't have any training partners. So this is the time that seems to be the most difficult personally to stay motivated, disciplined, and to really lean on your why for the next 4 to 6 weeks if you have one of those late season races when your weather conditions aren't the same as where you're going if you are going to somewhere like an Arizona or maybe Mexico or Florida, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.